Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the NLC Division 2. Yes, you did just see me in Berlin, and yes, I did just arrive home, but I'm excited to be here on the NLC Div 2 broadcast today. My name is Duckling, and I'm for the first time ever doing something with you, Jamada.
Yeah, hey, bro. I was gonna say it's been too long, but
It's
technically it's
never
been too
been.
long. It's never been to be too long, but it's taken too long for us to be on a cast together. Definitely.
That's true, that's true. That's a good way to put it.
Very excited to be with you, and Gobble always says very kind things about you. So I'm
Aw.
very excited to be here with you, and hopefully we get some very banger games for your sort of your warming to the league.
Yeah, I mean, NLC Div 2. I love this league. This is kind of the level where we had before with the national leagues, right? In Denmark,
Yep.
Finland, and I obviously did the Danish league. I did the Norwegian league as well. So it feels very homey being back on this broadcast. And we're starting off with a game which to me also is a very homey game. Guarp, a Danish organization, and more five friends, what we in Denmark like to call a mixed team of just five friends playing together. Sometimes they gig a smurf, sometimes it kind of falls apart, but it's very interesting to watch them. And then Nativz, who might be an Irish organization, but started off their League of Legends journey in Denmark, playing in the Danish National League last summer.
Yeah, and I really like the point you bring up about Guap, like sort of that being that mixed sort of friendship kind of team organization. Traditionally those teams actually tend to do quite well and bend a lot of expectations. But also I think when you kind of compare it to what we've heard as well from a lot of the other teams, a lot of the teams are genuinely kind of spooked by Guap because they're like Guap, they're like, okay, right now they're 5-8, but before when we had them on the interviews, they're like, sort of 3-8, 4-7, things like that. And teams are like, yeah, we're kind of spooked by Guap. Like sometimes they can take down the top end teams, like like your Nativz, like your light side. Other times they just lose to everybody. So I'm excited to see whether or not they can do the repeat on Nativz. But I think given what we saw from Tuesday's performance, in particular from Nativz, I think it'll be very very tough. But hey, who knows? This is Guap we are talking about.
And yeah, talking about Guap, talking about the standings, I think let's bring them up so we can get a real overview of how the NLC Division 2 looks at the moment. Nativz at the top at the moment, and obviously our reigning champions looking to regain their title and reclaim it. Lightside having a surprisingly good performance in my eyes, and right behind them alongside Unique, Rising, Dawn, and Domino, finishing out those playoff spots. And right behind them, we have Monster Rugby Gaming, Guap Gaming trying to catch up to those playoff spots, and Lucent and London United at the bottom, trying to get out of that relegation zone.
Yeah, Lucent and London United have a lot of legwork to do, especially because Guap picked up so many wins over the last couple of weeks. It's going to be really important, I think, especially for Lucent, as they are technically only trading one game to really try and get the ball rolling to make their way out of this bottom two, because playing in a relegation series, it's never fun. It's obviously something that's been in here in Division 2 since its inception. On the opposite side as well, though, for Nativz, light side, still looking to vie for top two. You have to remember there is that kind of championship point system that we're going to be running on. So for Nativz already being champions, it's not going to take too much for them to be pushed forward towards that promotion relegation for Division One. But they of course want to maintain, that the sort of dynasty that they're trying to set up to move into Division One.
Yeah, exactly. And building up the momentum, making sure you're coming in as strong as possible, because there was something you talked about on NLC just yesterday. Singularity getting their first win. They are starting to look a lot better. And even some of the other bottom teams, M&M have beaten X7. So you have to be a very good team in Division 2 if you want to be able to make that step up into the Division 1. One thing I think is very important to highlight is Unique do have the points that Fling Esports gained last split. So that
Yes.
those points do carry over to the now Unique roster because the players retained the spot. So they don't have to make it that far either. I think it's top 3, top 2, and they will be in that promotion spot as well. So it's about, especially Unique and Lunkus Lightside at the moment, fighting for that last spot in my eyes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think Naves right now, they're just on track to almost always finish top two. I think it would be really, really strange. Like the bare
Mm.
minimum I see from Naves is, you know, top two in regular season. Maybe they just randomly crash out in playoffs, right? But even then, crashing out in our playoff system in Division Two would be crash out of the winners finals into losers finals, and that's technically still third place. And given they're champions, that should still put them through. So yeah, like you say, looking towards Flung, right, to maybe try and be, or I say Flung, the old Flung sort of core in Unique now to try and make it as that second team, or of course Lightside, who I think, because they finished, what was it, I think fourth or fifth in spring, they definitely need a lot of legwork to catch up to those two teams in the points.
Yeah, exactly. And I think if Monster Rugby get their stuff together, maybe they can start picking up some championship points as well and sneak their way in finishing second. So there are a lot of situations and possibilities here on the cards. And I think especially the Unique versus Lightside matchup will be very interesting today to really say, okay, who looks to be the second strongest team in the moment. I think if we are to categorize how this split has been, as a whole for the NLC Division 2. It's been interesting in terms of, the roster, so many changes. It's very hard to keep up with really who is playing at what game day because there's so much going on. And that's why I think Natives have a huge advantage, being the only real team to have made 0 substitutions at all.
Yeah, I think, especially if you're talking about like between splits in particular, like Nativz is the only roster in the entire league that hasn't had a single change, right? I think obviously when you take into consideration new orgs coming in, even if players stay relatively the same, everyone else has changed, and especially there's even extreme examples of teams like Munster who effectively had all of their players leave from spring. They rebuilt the roster and then they had to rebuild in the middle of the split as well. So yeah, it's definitely very interesting, and I think that's always going to give Nativz the edge, over the other teams. But of course, talking about the first matchup of the day now, Guarp, right? In particular, even though Guarp, like we said, it's a friendship roster, right? It's not something that honestly we've brought up too much, but it's something that I think colloquially, if you've watched the leagues, especially, there was a lot of hype around, Guarp when they came into the promotion system from Division 3 in spring to make it here into Division 2. Everyone was routing for the Guarp boys, and it feels like even some of our teams here in the league still kind of have that sort of soft spot for them.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? It's a very lovely team. It feels very relatable, just being 5 really good League of Legends players playing together on a team. It's no big organization. The social media presence as well is very out there and very creative, very free, and isn't really that much of a limit, you could say, in terms of what they really post. It feels very personal. It feels very fun, and it's a fun brand to engage with. A team that obviously, spent that split in NLC Division 3, but in the Danish scene for a couple of years now, it has, been kind of in and out. And they sold their spot in the Danish league, then they came back. But, they've always stayed relevant for a couple of years. So it's one of the few mixed teams that has really, stuck through the task of remaining a team throughout the years. Because we have so many. Playa and Keller, which is the retirement home is calling, if we were to translate that to English, won the first Danish National League, then disappeared, and then we haven't really seen them. And they sort of made a comeback, but have disappeared again. And Guarp is really the only one of these teams from back in those days saying, we are still that mixed team, keeping the fun energy and, the 5 good friends playing some League of Legends. And I think that's what, makes people like them.
Yeah, and let's see if we can get an upset today. I'm assuming there might be some form of delay in Champions
Yeah,
Select because
I would
typically we'd
suspect.
be there by now. I haven't heard word from production, but that is just my assumption. But yeah, moving back, of course, to Guap, I think realistically, like you say, friendship buff really useful, but also just individually, a lot of the players are just quite talented, right, in their own right. It's just about whether or not it all clicks on the day for them to take down, almost, it feels like anyone in the league, right? They've got the scalps of Nativz and Lightside already under their belt. It's just about whether they can do the repeat here against Nativz. But then, of course, when it comes to the teams either around them or below them, making sure they can also, pick up those wins here, because playoffs isn't, an outside possibility. Yes, they're trailing 2 games, but with 5 games left to go, if you try and make yourself up to that sort of 8-game mark at the very least, 3 games out of 5, I don't think it's totally unreasonable given their schedule either. They could potentially just about slip in on something like a tiebreak scenario. So let's see what they give us here in the draft, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah, so the draft obviously coming thick and fast. The GP already banned away from Lundorf. The Kalista, something we've seen a lot in the meta recently. The Draven seems to be a thing that has been popping up more and more as more Draven players really coming back in. Fred Spaghetti, back in the day, a support, but he swapped to the AD carry role, and I guess he's following in the footsteps of his former AD carry, Tank Top Tour, and going that Draven route. So won't be happening this time around as the Graves and the Camille round out this first round of bans.
Yeah, one thing that's actually been left up is this Seraphine, so I do potentially expect that to be the B1. Things like Zeri as well, though we're on 12B, does, sometimes, actually on Tuesday, it was pretty much just left open and not really picked, but the Seraphine is something that's typically been banned on red side. It's going to be picked up here by Guarp, and we'll see what they go along with. But the other pick I wanted to mention that was up and available was actually Galem's Udyr, because that's something that's been target banned quite consistently against him. So we'll see whether or not Guarp want to run that with the Seraphine. It's a lot of additional shields to kind of give such a tanky and irritating backline sort of nuisance like Udyr. So we'll see what they want to do moving forward. But for Nativz now, it seems like they're actually going to go down the route of this Jinx, which we haven't really seen too much in the summer split, to be honest with you. Even in like sort of the 1 week that we had 12-9 available in Division 1, I don't really think we got much Jinx gameplay that week either. It was really, really limited, but they're just going to go Jinx Lulu off the bat. So it seems like they are just going to be playing for the scaling game on the bottom side of the map at the very least, in terms of getting Jinx that 2 IM spike, or 3 IM spike really, but 2 IMs when you really start to come online, try and take over some team fights for Guarp. See what the responses are. Like we said, Udyr up and available, expecting a jungler. Maybe this Gnar as well comes in for Vigo.
Yeah, Viggo Mobson, world champion, of course, in the terms of 1v1. I think I need to bring that out. That he won't be able to defend his championship, as he did fail to do it this time around. Actually, Curl, the raid top laner, won the Danish championship this time around, and we'll have to defend our glory in the United States. But regardless, I'm excited to see how he'll do up against Lundorf. And Sixmata, aka Faceit, actually the owner of the Guarp, if we were to look at it at a bit more legal side of things, and at least in how they present themselves, now needing to lock something in, and that will be the Gragas, a flex pick, to say the least.
Yeah, flex pick. I mean, technically, I'm expecting this one to end up in the jungle, right? I think you already kind of see, like, the flexible spots for it would be, like, top jungle support. You see it into Lulu, it's probably not going to go there. And obviously, Viggo Mobson has the Gnar in his hands already. So, looks like it's going to be the Scraggish jungle for Galen, which is definitely not something we see very frequently. But with the AP buffs, it's definitely something that can, fit particular drafts and composition. So, we'll see what direction they want to go with moving forward. But Nativz going to round out their R3 with a Sejuani. So just looking for something that can kind of just deal with the Gnar by itself. It can definitely get sort of out split pushed and out pressured in the earliest of stages, and especially if Viggo Mobson can kind of get going. I've seen this matchup go very lopsided towards the Gnar and things, but it's also one that, Sejuani can kind of catch you out with some of the burst damage he has available. Nativz, though, immediately removing away the Yasuo just because of the potential threat of a Rags Yasuo in the mid lane. Don't want to have to deal with that one. And Guarp, knowing there's technically still no jungler locked in, or no meta jungler locked in, Sejuani can still technically play that role. It's where she's almost always been for a very long time, and they're going to start picking away at those jungles.
And what I'm excited to see is if they will leave the Wukong open, because if there is one good matchup for this Gragas jungler who isn't really that much meta, it is actually the Wukong, where he can function very well as a disruption against the Wukong's teamfight potential. So I kind of want to see if they can bait them into picking that. Regardless, though, the Nautilus is the final ban coming out from the side of Nativz, trimming that support pool, knowing that they already have what they want in that regard, trying to deny Nugget, a safe Nautilus pick.
Yeah, I think Nugget definitely lent on this pick quite a bit. And when you have the Seraphine, ready as a flex, I think Nautilus is one of its strong engage option pairings. Of course, things like the Senna come alongside that on occasion as well. Not as an engage option, but just as a duo pair for the Seraphine. But Nativz do have quite a few options still. Top side matchups is what I expect them to go towards. Hold on to Relay's R5 counter pick, because it's quite simple. You don't see what it is, but you do see this top side matchup, and you brought up the Wukong. It seems like they are going to go for it, Snille. So even though it's definitely a matchup which you'd expect Gragas to have a little bit more of an edge in terms of the tools he has available to stop Wukong from doing his job, still feels like it's a jungler that Nativz are comfortable picking in this situation to give them more setup potentially and space for Jinx to try and work in the late game portions of the team fights. And we'll see what Relay decides to go for once we hit that R5 point. As mid lane Guarp, it looks like they're just going to pick up the Yone, something very, very aggressive to still pair up as an AD mid laner for this Gragas.
Yeah, they're having to show their hand here at the moment, so the Seraphine likely is to go into the bot lane. So the last question we really have here, Jamada, is what will be paired up? The Nautilus you mentioned good with the Seraphine, but already taken off the table. What's really left for Guarp to go for?
I mean, I think you go like kind of 1-2 routes. You go the scaling of something like Senna, or you go another engage support entirely, and kind of fits-ish, right? A lot of aggression can come out of a Pyke lane, and if you think about it like this, right, the amount of CC that can be chained between a Pyke and a Seraphine is kind of nutty. You've got the beat drop route into Phantom Undertow and a hook, or just any order of those three, and it's a solid 2.5 or more seconds of CC, which you can very easily have Gragas come down and stack up more CC and damage as well. So a lot of ganks out towards the bottom side, and I expect Guarp to try and focus that Nativz lane, simply because you look towards the rest of the map. I'm not saying that it doesn't scale particularly well, but if you're talking about, late game scaling on average, Jinx definitely has the highest ceiling here. And when you have so much setup ready and available for the bottom side, I expect them to go and attack it. For Nativz, though, definitely still loads of options, right? Towards the mid lane, melee versus melee matchup can be very volatile. You've got the Wukong, you've got the Sylas, a lot of skirmishing potential on the top side as well. Set up for the permafrost, just because of how Wukong can get on top of targets very quickly. A lot of options on both sides. We'll see how things get going once we actually get into game in terms of how junglers want to path and what priorities are going to be taken.
I just want to say I really like this Sylas pick here. I think it is a free buffet pretty much of whatever you want to pick in terms of ultimates. There are so many good. You can take the Onko, you can take the ultimate of Nugget as well. There you can take the Gnar, you can take so many good things, and I feel like he's really able to pick and choose whatever he feels would fit best for the individual team fight. So I definitely see why they've gone for this pick. I'm excited to see how Willie will be able to utilize the many good ultimates that are available to be stolen in this game.
Yeah, no, right? I think kind of just top to bottom, there's not really a bad ultimate here, right? All of them
Exactly, yeah,
provide
they're
setup
all
or
pretty
hard
good.
CC. Yeah. I think obviously the sort of maybe the scariest one in theory is the Pike ult, right? Just because death from below resets can really go crazy and take over a team fight. But I think no matter how you look at it, the fact that there's already those two sort of engage options through Wukong or through the Sejuani, and then you stack that up with one of the 5 pretty strong follow-up ultimates as well that Guarp have drafted for themselves looking for setup. I think it's always going to be really, really dangerous, some of these team fights for Guarp to pilot. But I think the same thing can be said for Nativz, right? When you're not running a 1 carry composition, but you're running a hyper carry composition with 3 bruisers and an enchant to try and keep everybody alive. With the disruption that is there and ready for Guarp, I think Yoppa's positioning in this game is really going to have to be on point. It's something that we've criticized on occasion, simply because he does definitely like to kind of step out of line, especially when he gets ahead and he gets the ball rolling. It's not out of character for him to get a little bit too aggressive, so hopefully he keeps in check, because I think in a game like this, it's going to be really important.
I think for me, when we're talking a lot about the Jinx, we're thinking back to the spring memories, but we have to remember, this is not a spring Jinx, so it will be a little bit harder to execute and really get to those late game scenarios we saw, where AD carries were able to win so many team fights, win so many games at pretty much every level of competitive play. So I think you're hitting the head on the nail there by saying Yoppa, he has to be aware of his positioning, and going with that Ghost definitely, has more quick repositioning and re-engaging tools in that regard.
Yeah, it's something that we've seen a lot more over the course of the last couple of months. The Ghost comes in when the AD carry doesn't feel like they need the likes of a teleport or heal, cleanse, and Ghost on Jinx specifically can effectively just be used as a snowballing tool, right? Pop the Ghost, you get a takedown, all of a sudden you have Ghost for, I think, it's 10 extra seconds, or the original duration, an additional 7. And with the excited buff, you just move so fast. Yeah, there you go, 10 seconds, and then...
That is a lot. That is a lot.
Oh, it gets extended by 4 seconds. Okay, so they nerfed
by
it
4
at some
seconds.
point.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
that's still on a movement speed, and as you say, with the get excited, that's double movement speed, and it will carry on for a while. That's a big possibility for resets here if Yoppa gets the team fights where he gets the 1 reset and then just, starts unleashing hell on pretty much everyone on the side of Guarp.
Very, very oppressive it can be. So Guarp are going to have to make sure that they don't overstep their bounds and give over a first kill. I think first kill could be really, really important on these team fights now that I think about it. Just simply because Pike's in the game, Pike gets that death from below reset, all of a sudden you really have to start playing out team fights differently. If Jinx gets a reset, then things can always be super scary. So I think positioning and sort of the ability for either 2 of these teams to try and get on top of somebody immediately and take them down is going to be super important. Not obviously because it's a natural advantage that you'd want to look for anyway, finding that first pick and takedown, but just because of the champions as well, it puts a little bit extra emphasis.
I want to take it back to the early game kind of Yamada here and talk about the junglers, because Gragas, not something you see very often. Golem, he played it in their qualification match against Rising Dawn Esports, or back then typically Boosted Animals. They did end up losing that game, but we definitely saw what the Gragas can offer in terms of that one-shot combo. But how do you think it will be going up in this early game against the Wukong?
Well, I think the expectation of Guarp playing towards the bottom side is likely to be met, because top side pathing seems to be here from Galem. And he's just going to full clear for now, but actually Snille done his full blue side and he's moving into the red jungle of Galem. So I don't think either of them spotted each other out. Snille is definitely more looking for Galem, has Smite, and the awkward thing is Galem's actually slipped fast and he's looking for a mid lane gank now.
Yeah, he's not really caring about his own red buff. Who needs it anyways? You can get a first blood in the mid lane. Rulle. One more auto. The ignite will surely get him right, guys. And Facehud manages to pick up first blood.
Yeah, definitely very awkward timing for Relay there, because he sees Snille on the enemy jungle's red buff. Now Galen's gonna face check into this quadrant, which definitely isn't his, and he has no flash.
No flash, yeah. Snille red buff as well, just took it by the way, so he could pretty much get the damage that he wants. In the end, not quite enough, so he will be backing off. Golem survives, and happy days for him, but there is no red buff to be taken.
Yeah, no red buff will be taken. There's that Lindo. Oh, he's on. I don't know why. For a second, I was like, Sejuani's on blue side, and then, but could have actually had that Arctic Assault blocked, and that could have been kind of awkward as a Sejuani. But yeah, Galem finds that gank in the mid lane. Really nice. Relay not really expecting a jungle gank to come from that side, obviously, because he's just seen Snille slip in towards the red buff, so maybe still thinking Galem's going to be coming from the top side, but either way, Relate doesn't blow his flash or another summoner spell, so he's still doing okay. And one thing to note is that Yone didn't get to base either, so is stuck in lane 4 now and will need help very soon. And one thing that I feel like no other team has done besides Nativz is actually mid lane tier 1 tower dives on wave stat. So if Anskima, how do you pronounce his name actually? Because I have you here. I feel,
yeah, it's Danish names, right? Okay, let's just keep an eye on the bot lane first as Clux is forced to dash away. But I think yeah, it's pretty good, right? You are having a full Danish team here, and there are a couple pronunciations that are a bit hard. Regardless though, Viggo Mobsten, one of the ones who should be pretty easy to pronunciate, is going for a big 1v1 up against Lundorf. I'm trying to help you here, Dimata, but everyone just seems to be fighting all around the map. Yeah. Now Snille forced to flash away, flash forward from Facewood, aka N6 if you're wondering how you pronounce it. He goes back, he gets the kill, and now he fights Rulle, who wants to try and stop him. He doesn't have the support from his supporter. What? Facewood? He just gets both?
Yeah, N6
Wow.
Get both, yeah, that's a really big deal, actually, because he had him based already. Now he's going to probably go back with B Greaves, extra longsword also, right? 3 kills. So, or maybe even more. He could be waiting for like an agility cloak or something. And that would really buff up his trading just because of Yone getting, of course, the double crit chance. What's he doing? He's walked out of base. Now I'm curious. He's soulbound. He's trying to make it back to the shop for an execution.
Healing reduction. Okay, yeah.
Right, healing reduction. So, definitely going to help out in those short trades that Silas can go for. Of course, trying to leave that Kingslayer to late in the trade to get as much health back as possible. It's just going to sort of negate some of that trading power, so don't mind it coming in here. But yeah, getting those early kills is really going to propel him to that early spike a lot quicker than you'd typically see Yone's go. So we're going to have to continue to track how strong he ends up being and whether or not he picks up more kills in any more skirmishes, because this game has definitely been a little bit more active potentially than I was expecting, but just in a different way, different areas of the map, around the mid lane in particular, as opposed to sort of seeing Guarp try and focus down the bottom side.
It's a very good start for Guarp, and it feels like to me this is the way that they would like to kind of play the game, a bit more scrappy with these 1v1s really taking priority and 2v2s up towards the jungle mid. They've had a lot of success in that regard so far, at the very least in Viggo Mobsten, doing fine as up in that top lane. World champion after all. As I said, that he does get knocked up by the Frozen Tomb, but does have the flash, so is able to get away. But I want to bring it back to the pronunciation thing, just so I can clear this up for you. N6 Matter. I don't know if you can call him Facewood. That's what he was previously known as. And N6 Matter, straight translation, Facewood. It is pretty weird to pronounce it, especially because his full name can't fit like in the league client, because N6 Matter is too long. As looks for the hook, fades heal, goes forward and can't actually catch up to anyone. Still, not without the ultimate, but Rulle has the hijacked and gets the big shot down onto N6 Matter.
Oh, and he dances on his grave as he does it as well. Flares up the game over. Nice little cheeky bit of BM there. But really nice turnaround. Really just ends up dodging out on everything after a trade. Nugget just trying to make a play work over the top of the chicken wall. Gets turned around. Piston is right around the corner and now is on top of this dragon, but Fred's Baguette's going to kind of force him away off of it for now, but with clocks in the area, I imagine they're still going to try and look for the takedown, but Galem and Nugget from the mid lane can definitely look to rotate and maybe play Nuisance, but see Galem moving over towards the top side instead, maybe looking for some jungle camps, but they're not there.
Yeah, Nugget though, still very aggressive in this one. He wants to go in and look for Snille, who still doesn't have the Cyclone, and looks to go down here, goes into the W, and now to be seen again, Nugget has to flash away to not go down. Fred's Baguette rotates up, but Snille should be dead here as N6 Matter seals the deal with the Soul Unbound flash forward from Golem, as he will pick up that one and look for the blue buff afterwards.
Yeah, Guarp, I mean, taking on Nativz head to head here in the early game. They do pick up the early dragon, but Guarp find more kills off the back of it. Steal away this blue buff as well. And right now, 1,500 gold lead or so. Not doing too bad for themselves. And mid lane lead still definitely a thing, having just picked up another kill despite really finding that shutdown. It's going to feel nice in the immediate future for him. But this Yone is going to slowly turn into an absolute monster.
I'm excited to see when Snille hits that level 6 mark. It definitely feels like that's when he will be able to try and get himself back into the game. Not the greatest start for the Wukong. I just want to clear up 12.12 or 12.12B. What are we on here? 12.12B?
B, yeah,
B. B, okay. So the early game has been nerfed on the Wukong, of course, which is not actually really that much felt here. I really feel like he was actually pretty quick on his pathing, but I guess that's what happens when you go bot side straight into an invade. on the Wukong, so you don't really do the full clear regardless. But in the late game, the Wukong, even if it was 12.12 or 12.12, has not been nerfed and will be pretty much just as strong as before. So it kind of just has to get into the point, it feels like. But I'm very happy with how Golem has been playing this game so far. Getting success on the Gragas is very hard to do because he isn't really a meta jungler at the moment, so I'm very impressed.
Yeah, definitely not picked up a lot by many teams in the jungle role. I feel like, though, considering, you know, some of those AP buffs, Night Harvester as well has become a very popular item on him. Because that item picked up a couple of buffs, a lot of CDR. Gragas, of course, loves that stat. Definitely something we could see slip into the meta more and more. But it does depend on how teams, you know, prioritize some of their solo laners, whether or not they play some of these AD champions like Yone, Yasuo, Irelia. Top side of the map is, of course, Jace, things like that. I haven't seen too much Jace in the summer split.
I'm not sure how Nugget missed that.
neither am I, to be honest, but I think they're both kind of happy that they did, because it just means they can get to disengage. And Galen on the top side, with that information, is just going to freely pick up that Herald.
I've been on it for a couple seconds now as Viggo Mobson in the top lane has the pressure, would look for the solo kill, the damage is not quite there. A very conservative player in that regard, doesn't want to overextend. Golem? It used his ultimate. I don't want to add more to that.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
So, okay.
What?
I'm gonna ask. I don't really ask for weird replays like this, but I'm gonna ask for a replay of that, but from Galem's vision. Because my only expectation is that he thought Lundorf stopped moving, and he just tried to predict where he was basing. Now, Relay's here to try and interrupt this. Needs to force Galen back.
Yeah, he actually hit the ultimate that he hijacked away, and still will be able to pick up that kill in the end. So Golem definitely gets punished for his mistake there.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the replay and see what happened.
Yeah, so my only expectation, if you can toggle the vision from now, because I feel like Viggo throws the Q and then steps back, and he goes out of vision.
Okay,
and
so he doesn't see.
It. He just expects to stop moving there, which is kind of a weird prediction, but a prediction that Galen makes, unfortunately. And he tries to pick up the Krugs on the back end of that play, and that's where he ends up getting caught out, because in the mid lane, it's really that has first move, had that wave shoved in prior, and he just shows Galen how you actually use the Kraker's Cask on this one, and finds himself killed.
I love Guarp, man. What a beautiful team. Honestly, it brings me back to the times in the Danish league where things were a little bit more chaotic, and you know, it was these skirmishes pretty much all around the map. Everyone trying to get solo kills constantly, even if they didn't really need to, trying to just push that advantage that they have regardless. And sometimes it leads to very beautiful plays and very quick games because you're snowballing so well, and sometimes it leads to what we just saw in the top lane.
It also leads to quick games, which snowball really well from the opposite side.
Just from the opponents. I mean, one thing I think is important to highlight here is the bot lane has been pretty much untouched in that sense. Yes, Klux has started one sort of rotation, but Yoppa, he has been sitting in that bot lane, picking up 10 CS per minute at the moment. So obviously, while all this is going on, Yoppa is pretty happy just being able to scale up without any contention or without anyone trying to stop him.
Yeah, kind of freely here, as of course, we do have a pause on our screen. We will hopefully get you information when we have it on what the issues are. But I feel, you know... Oh, Nugget Mouse issues is why I hear my ear. So hopefully that will be resolved.
That's why I missed that hook earlier, by the way. It must be, right? There has to be something in between that.
It's the only reason, surely, right?
It is, surely. If we are to talk a little bit more about those rosters, I want to mention the weird rotations that have come through from Guarp, because Fred Spaghetti, throughout his whole career in the Danish scene, has been a support. He has now swapped to AD carry as they qualified for NLC Division 2. Nugget, who played mid lane in the NLC Div 2 promotions, have now swapped to support. So even though it's a team with a lot of recognizable faces in the Danish league, they have definitely changed around from where we would normally see them in that bot side, which is very interesting and very fun to see them try something new.
Yeah, and of course, as time goes on, as they play together in this configuration, you know, new roles, a lot of experience comes with that. Hopefully, if we do end up seeing this roster in spring, let's say they just about fall short in playoffs. If we do see this roster again in spring, I expect them to do quite well. Just because there's definitely been a clear sense of progress throughout summer.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very impressed, to be honest, because I watched some of the earlier games, and I'm gonna be honest, it was a bit, oh yeah, I know that you guys are capable of more on Guarp, and they just weren't really able to show it. Sometimes they felt kind of clueless at what they were doing. In all honesty, I was like questioning what was going on. And obviously, that's what you get with a Danish mixed team, but you also get these games where they have now improved and look as a whole way more controlled. Yes, there's been some weird uses of ultimates and misses, but as a whole, I'm pretty satisfied with how Guarp are playing, considering they're going up against our reigning champions. Nativz, the strongest team in the league on paper, a team who also has a lot of pre-built synergy, considering they just won the split together last split.
Yeah, like this isn't Nativz playing against someone right next to them. You know, this isn't or Guarp, sorry, playing against someone who's right next to them. It's not the likes of Lucent or London United or you know, even maybe Munster as well. Munster at 5 and AS. It's sometimes hard to remember that compared to where they were in spring. This is them currently playing, like you say, the reigning champions, first place, the I think 5-win streak team, Nativz at the moment. The team that looked absolutely clinical at their ceiling, definitely being pushed by something that we've seen on occasion so far this summer split for Nativz. But I feel, to be fair, even if you do compare it to their spring performance, you know, Nativz were definitely no stranger to making a couple of mistakes in game. But typically you would see that in the mid game once they'd already established a lead. Now it feels like some of their early games definitely leave a little bit to be desired, but of course still the very strong team that we know them to be.
Yeah, but in the broader perspective, I'm actually very happy that we have teams in the league that are able to push Nativz, you know, to their limit, because we are expecting Nativz to be able to make that into the promotion. Considering, as we talked about before the game, they don't have to do much in this playoffs to get into the promotion because they won the split last time and they gained so many championship points from that. So I'm very happy to see them get pushed and not just run in, run over and not really learn a lot, because with these losses that they've had 3 already, and the fact that they're being pushed in the early game, that's something to improve on. That's something to learn upon when you move into those promotions later on in the year, and I'm very happy to that. And it's not just a quick steamroll.
Yeah, and I'll definitely say, obviously I don't know what their scrims look like, but if you're playing on stage and you're mostly winning, and the wins are pretty heavy-handed, it's something that starts to kind of take a toll on you, on like your team. I'll talk more on this point. Fred to get potentially is in danger.
Yeah, Cyclone used once, will be used twice as well, and the rocket connects. Joppa, he gets the kill on the scaling on the AD carry. The one we were looking for to carry in the late game is certainly going well.
Yeah, so obviously I don't know what their scrims look like. I don't get to sit inside of the Nativz scrim camp. But let's say, for instance, you know, the scrims look relatively similar to how the stage games look, where they're winning sort of 80-ish% of their games, give or take. It's not many times where you're actually losing games to learn how to play from behind, right? And that's generally something that over the course of a long period of time, if you don't go through a slump, when that slump does eventually hit you, it hits hard, because it's something that, you know, you guys have to get through together, because as a team, you're so used to only really winning that you don't know how to play from behind, how to, you know, I'm not going to say not how to do things like cross-map, but you don't know how to cross-map when you're behind, and that can definitely be a entirely different skill set in total. As
okay,
Golem, you know, he's been throwing them at least this game.
It connected this time around. That's what I'm happy to see, as the Willet goes in with the hijack, takes the fail seal, good dash away with the soul unbound, I believe, from N6 Matter as Nugget yet again misses a hook but waddles out to safety.
Yeah, waddles out, and really nice, just hits the E to recall himself back to his body. Can't get claimed by hard CC when you get that snapback, but now he has to snap back regardless.
Snap back to reality, straight into a monkey, as Snilla will be pulled under the turret, but the Fade Seal was available, and N6 Matter able to get out. There is a Herald on the map though, and with low HP on the mid lane of Guarp, it looks like something Snilla might be going for.
Rocket, man,
wow, that was close.
Yeah. I mean, if he hit Soul Unbound half a second earlier, he would have got clipped by that as Gillen and Nugget.
Yeah.
Pick here.
Clocks forced to heal just for safety. Golem didn't have that explosive cast, couldn't knock Clocks back into the team, but you know, managing to force a sum, that's a good win, and most importantly, you get the priority on the Herald, and they will very quickly take that. As in that top lane, Viggo Mobson has been doing well for himself. A lot of CSing, almost 10 CS per minute.
Yeah, definitely is having a pretty positive time up there. It's definitely what you expect from a Gnar lane in Sejuani early on. If Sedge doesn't get some kind of, you know, cheeky solo kill with the Ignite, and maybe you get caught off guard by a double permafrost proc, it's definitely one you can kind of cruise through. And you even on occasion see Nars go super split push builds into these matchups like Sejuani these days. Where you might even end up seeing a whole breakup get picked up, despite that I am kind of mostly being nerfed into what I would call not quite obsolescence, but you only really build it if you are a true never grouping up team fighter, or a split pusher rather, not team fighter, you're not a team fighter, that's the entire point.
Yeah. With the Drake though, in 20 seconds the team fight could be on the horizon as Snille goes and gets a bit of damage on towards Nugget. I kind of want to bring up the fact that Yoppa is now at 1.5 items, so might be able to join a fight if he really wants to, as this Drake is the second for either team. Vigomop rotates down and Lundorf TPs in.
That's pretty far forward TP is.
Wow.
It's really heavily chunked down. That could just about be enough for Nativz. So at the very least get a start up going, because Vigo does have teleport, so he'll rejoin. I expect Guarp aren't going to give this one up without a fight, but bottom side, Ansigma.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ansigma caught out, will have that second Q to get away for now. Vigomop since he been in, still has to build up that rage bar. Hijack has come through from Rulle, so he has stolen that. Hasn't used it yet though, as Snille picks up the first kill onto Ansigma. They don't want to commit further, they've got what they wanted for now. Fred Spaghetti taken down to half HP, and Lundorf very tanky in that front line, soaking up 3 members' time.
Yeah, alright, so pick comes through. And Nativz right now not comfortable enough to start the dragon.
Vigomop! Clocks just obliterated, nowhere to be found on the rift that he goes down into the grave. Lundorf now caught on the wrong side of the map. Golem connects with what he wanted, the explosive cast connecting. Oh, but Rulle, he finds the 3-man Narn. Vigomop falls alongside Fred Spaghetti. One reset back though. Can Golem outplay that? It goes Golden Nugget, looks for Snille, but he can't get the execution. Kingslayer heals up Rulle as Nugget has to flash away, and Rulle turns around that fight single-handedly.
Yeah, amazing stolen Naro there over the wall. Now Nativz should be able to claim that dragon, which they were fighting over for quite a while there. Guarp really didn't want to give that one over for free. Unfortunately, they gave over way too much trying to do so. Nugget just going to play a bit of nuisance button. Rulle almost finds him chains. Just barely missed. Phantom Undertow comes through, and that's the second dragon in the game for Nativz. Mountain Dragon Soul as well, of course, have to talk about. With so many short-range bruisers in this game, yeah, Phil Mountain actually is going to have a fair amount of value. But this all starts off with Vigo off the back of losing Yone, their mid laner, of course. Just kind of flash forward the chains as he comes in with that Mega Gnar ultimate. It's about to time out. And usage comes through, and then Guarp, Spout, Lundorf kind of looking for, I suppose, a flank at best, but they just overchased. They're not expecting Rulle over the wall with the chains, with the Naro. 3-man connection is what it is, and still he comes over to help the cleanup, as it's just complete annihilation.
Wow. I think it's worth remembering that the Gnar ultimate has AP scaling, so it deals so much damage when it gets hijacked from Rulle. And that's the good thing, because many ultimates that he steals, you know, they're good value in terms of displacing your opponent or disrupting a fight, but this is a good disruptor, CC, and a lot of damage. It's pretty much an all-in-one ultimate. Plus, you don't have to play around with the rage bar either.
Yeah, no, it's actually something that I think caught Orcs off guard today in the V5 game in the LPL, because Rookie was piloting the Silas. He had Naro stolen, and he just, like, practically 100. He wasn't even particularly too fed. Like, he had 3 kills, maybe. It's sort of 20-ish minutes into the game. And he just one-shot the, I think it was the support. And you just kind of forget, like you say. I don't know what the ratios are on Naro, but they are pretty high. Because
I think
Gnar,
it's almost like 100%.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous, like 80 or 90%, because Gnar just doesn't build them. I think you have to hit shift. Oh, I saw 150%. If it connects with the wall.
My God,
yeah,
150%.
So it's flat out 100%, but then 150 if they connect with the wall. Yeah,
that's a lot. Imagine like a late game side of
what,
600, 500 HP.
They're doing Baron.
Wait, are they? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Guarp.
They're pinging it now, but the issue is no one's actually checking it.
And no one is checking it.
And now they know.
Yeah, but Snille is trying to assassinate Nugget. That doesn't really help with anything. 4k HP on the Baron, down to 2k Snille. Will you flash in? Good explosive cast, and it's gone, as you say, Jamada. Can they now get out with it alive? 2-man Fade Shield is good, but it's not good enough. As Rulle goes golden, he does still have the Pike ultimate that he could look for the resets if they want to get the fight. Yoppa still untouched as Lundorf looks to go down here. Rulle optimistically trying to recall inside the pit. Will be able to dash over with the abscond. Hasn't abducted anyone, and he will just be able to get away.
Yeah, I think he was waiting for the abscond cooldown to come back, if I had to wager a guess.
He's on a ward.
He is on a ward.
Hey,
It's gonna be
Nugget.
alright. Yeah, okay.
Next
It
with
was,
a hook.
it's like bated breath there. You can't really commentate over stuff like you just have to kind of wait and see
I
whether or not
actually,
it connects.
you do that sometimes. I do that a lot actually. Like I have some times where I'm just like, oh, this play is so intense that I forget I have to play it. It's like, wait, this is actually my job to do this, and you're like sitting there because I want to see what happens. I don't want to talk over it. It's a big moment in the game, but yeah, this is Guap. They just sneak the Baron away under your nose, and they
Yeah,
even won the
really.
fight. That's the disturbing part about it is the fact that they really got everything now. They got the Baron, they
Yeah.
got the kills. It's not like, okay, they got the Baron, they then lose three, and then they only have 2 Barons. No, they have, 5-man Baron, and they got a couple kills as well.
Yeah, really clean heist. And I think Nativz just not quite set up for it. I think what they were looking to do is find the pick on the side lane and then translate that pick into vision around the Baron. But the problem is Guarp managed to slip in after the back of what I'd imagine was sort of like losing the Mountain Dragon. They opened up top and then they had the vision set up around the top side to make that play work. And now Lundorf caught out on the side lane again.
Yeah, fate sealed, and it is certain that his fate is sealed. He goes down into the grave. Not much you can do there. That was 3-man on him. But Guap do not follow the rules. They do not care about traditional pro League of Legends. They simply do whatever they want. And when they see a Baron, they take the Baron.
Guarp right now on pace to take down our #1 team for the second time this split.
They would be half of their losses.
It would be, yeah, mathematically half of their losses, which, super impressive when you say it like that. Oh my god, Naves have lost half of their games to Guarp, but there's only 2 losses, of course, over the course of a regular split. But still a very, very impressive record for Guarp to hold if they can stay on this pace. And I think, as things stand, map pressure definitely in their favor. They have the setup for this dragon, though Nativz could maybe get mid push and try and contest this through the mid lane. Fred Spaghetti is going to Baron buff this up, but I think numbers advantage is going to mean that for now, Nativz should hold mid priority, though Nugget nearly caught out. But everybody's here, just on different fronts. You can see Yone all the way down towards the bottom side, but he's not going to look for a flank. He's just going to look to regroup with Guarp.
Yeah. Fights with Guap are often a long, weird skirmish, not really a typical front-to-back team fight, but if there is one, we do have that 24-minute Joppa who, has just been scaling up this game. He's gotten a couple kills here and there and gotten a load of farm, but we haven't seen him be able to pop off in this team fight. So if they get that front-to-back, it is now where the Jinx is really starting to come online, and it would be great for him to take over a fight around this soul point.
Absolutely, it would, but I think for now, Naves have to bide their time because Vigor Mopson just gnarred out. And I think Guarp, with that in mind, are going to try and start up this dragon to get a fight going, because they know once he goes into that exhaustion mode, no Mega Knight Ultimate is really going to hamper a lot of their team fighting abilities, and it's already gone. So now Nativz maybe could look for a engage here.
Playing from Golem. He wants Joppa, but he himself is the one who got flanked. As Snille will lock King up. He has to go down into the stopwatch, has to flash away, and will live for now. But as Snille continues to chase, Clocks will secure the kill. Joppa had to flash and ghost away down to half HP. No smite from the side of Guarp, but they go back on the Drake, and they will continue to take it down to 4k HP.
Yeah, I don't know if they can go through this choke between Fred Spaghetti.
Still back into the Mega Knight, and the Seraphine encore is massive as Joppa will get taken down. Not quite executed, but falls regardless as N6 Matter goes forward. Rulle has to run for his life, but he will be narred into the wall like he did against Guarp before. This time, it's the demise that is met for him, and the Drake goes over to Guarp.
Guarp find the massive encore, and this is what I was literally about to say. I think between Fred Spaghetti having the ultimate and also Nugget just kind of playing bodyguard, they shouldn't really be able to make it through the choke, but Nativz try and force, and they get clocked by the ultimate, and it's just lights out from that moment onwards. Everybody ends up dropping off the back of that, and now Nativz, they fall further down behind in gold, find further and further behind in kills, and they also just lost that Mountain Dragon, so that's not going to be sole point to put a little bit more pressure on Guarp in the next 5 minutes time. Even footing for both these teams. No, Elder buff in the sort of loomings after the fact of a soul potentially being picked up earlier than anticipated. Guarp staying comfortable.
I think it's very hard for Joppa to play these fights because it is just so skirmish, split up, and weird fights. We'll take a look at it in the replay here, right? But it's never really a clear back to front. There's always someone trying to flank or something else going on in a traditional front to back. And Joppa just unable to really be the main carry that we wanted from him, and as these fights are just so split.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is that Nativz, you know, a little short range outside of the Jinx. They all moved up in towards that blue buff. Yoppa is playing the front to back style, but he's just not able to follow through because Guarp ended up cutting him off. Now, it's just choke control here from Fred Spaghetti. Manages to catch everybody. Maybe he's out of vision as he casts that encore, which makes it a little bit harder to react to. But Nativz just potentially not tracking the fact that encore hadn't been used throughout the entire of that fight and just walking through that choke. A little bit greedy. You understand the thought process though, because realistically, they have smite, Guarp don't. Guarp starting up on objective is maybe a little bit risky without having.
But it's Guarp. They don't follow rules. They don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
I love watching Guarp. It is so entertaining. You never really know what to expect. You never really know what will happen. But Nativz certainly have to find some way back into this game. It's an 8k gold lead, and without getting that Drake, you mentioned it, there will not be like an Elder Drake they can fight for soon, or a sword that they can get to get themselves back into the game. That's 10 minutes if they want to get the sword from now.
It is such a long time away. So I think now Nativz really just have to rely on Yoppa to get to his Infinity Edge. And then the rest of the team has to just try and play bodyguard, look for picks, try and find massive sort of ultimates. But my problem is I feel like Guarp just have so many strong tools as the game's going to continue on. Yone is going to hit his third item in the Infinity Edge. He actually went for the Mortal Reminder second for an earlier spike. It's definitely been working out for him. And then when you just kind of look across the board, Nugget, going to be okay. Looked a little bit sketchy, yes, but
it worked. Okay. It worked.
But yeah, I think Guarp, in terms of the utility their composition brings, I think that's going to get them over the edge. If Nativz do start to make a comeback, I wouldn't be too surprised, but that'll be more on, you know, the execution factor of Nativz are a very talented team. They are champions. But how often can we say that we've seen them in this kind of situation before? Where Guarp, I'm not going to say it's been entirely, you know, calculated and clean like how we typically see from, actually Nativz more than not, but they're going to find Fred Spaghetti for now. Flash blown.
Yeah, able to get out though. You mentioned the flash. That's an important cooldown as the Baron is up. But he is able to stay alive. That's the most important part. And Sixmatic 3 items, but so is Yoppa. That's worth noticing. You mentioned it just before. They want to wait for that 3 item back until they really start doing something. Then just pray the Jobber is able to carry these team fights. We talked about the reset possibility that he does have with the Ghost, with the Get Excited. Viggo Mobson out of Mega now, so won't be able to fight for a while.
Not for now. I mean, I think that's maybe at the moment, despite being down so much gold, I think if they can fight on those windows where Viggo doesn't have Mega Nart, they still have a pretty solid chance, but outside of that, I think it's going to be really, really rough. And again, even if we start to see like a little bit of poke come in from a few avenues that is available from there, it's very limited. Things like the Zeravian will just heal everybody back up, and diving forward is going to get increasingly more tough. If the target is Fred Spaghetti, he's got a stopwatch, going to go towards that, and Zhonya's and Sigma though on the opposite side of where he needs to be.
Yeah, but N6Man just touched 2 crucial ultimates, the Frozen Zoom, not able to connect, and the Encore. They are fearing it for their lives. They have to flash away. 2 flashes used, and they will still get onto Lundorf, the one who does never flash, to get away from it. Viggo Mobson about to narrow out. He could go forward if he wants more, but N6Man just outplays that 1v3 scenario straight up.
Yeah, massive outplay from N6Man then. With that, I think they're just going to turn towards the Baron. Simple as that. Guarp are really, really putting on a show for us here in the opening game of the day. Delay just outright has to flip 50-50 this and win. He needs a little bit of vision. He's been...
I thought that's the clone. I was scared for a second, but down to 6k. Could make it in, but no, Gollum wants to bomber him. Unable to combo him, though. In the end, he will go down. Yoppa, what can you really carry this fight? He has the Ghost pop, but he will go down to Fred. Spaghetti wants a support, but this game, certainly a carry as the Baron will fall. The fight goes to Guarp.
Fight goes to Guarp. The Baron goes to Guarp. The Dragon can probably go to Guarp if they're going to want to go and take it right now. Would be Baron time, but right now, Guarp are on pace to take down Nativz yet again for the second time this split. And I mean, what an important performance and win this could potentially be for them, because remember, they're not technically out of the relegation race just yet, and they still have, in their final 4 games, Guarp still have Lucent and London United to play, which, I'm not saying they're freebies, but could definitely look to be easier games than taking on the top side of the table. Lundorf is also going to get picked off now as well. The rest of Guarp follow up, and they're just sieging the top side of the base already. I don't think they've reset even, so They're just looking to get all of this immediate pressure down. Inhibitor surely gone.
That's the thing with these mixed teams. When it works, it really works. This is a pretty dominant game, let's be honest. Yes, there's been some small mistakes, but in these team fights, after the one where really turned it around, they have been lethal, and they have outplayed their opponents. Our reigning champions in NLC Div 2, as N6 Matter barely manages to recall there and get out to safety. It is more than a 10k gold lead now. They have Soul Point as well if they want to wait it out. But look, 4 items on Fred Spaghetti, 3 items on N6 Matter, Golem on 3 as well. Looking towards the 4th, Viggo Mobson, a massive tank as well. 2 tank items, 2 more damage items as well. So they really have everything they want if they want to end the game.
Yeah, now, I will say, I don't think I've seen Nativz this far down in gold before. So maybe they've learned from when they're this far up how to come back, if we're going to reference their first game against Lightside, where, of course, they threw that huge gold lead. But again, it's just going to be about kind of just hoping and praying Yoppa finds a really big pop-off fight. But so far, Guarp, as a unit, just have not been giving them the opportunity to do so. And even if individually somebody slips up and looks to maybe get picked off, the rest of Guarp are so fast to respond, or an individual outplay just kind of comes through and shuts that play down. Deep teleport
TP.
But he's
What
on
can
vision.
What can really do here? Yeah, they have spotted him. Can they one-shot Viggo? No, they really can't. So they have to go for Nugget, but that would only be the support as Golem. Steps forward with confidence here. Viggo Mobson also just simply running Lindorf back into his base. The guy on TP flank was just, no, we don't care. Just go back to your base, man.
Yeah, and going towards the only inhibitor tower that's left up and available as a 3. Galen and Sigma in the mid lane. Just going to slowly chunk at this inhibitor with those Baroned up minions, and that's going to be that. They're just going to slowly and surgically take Nativz apart with this Baron buff. 15 seconds left. Maybe they look to get even more aggressive with the buff still up, but they're going to get all 3 inhibitors on the first Baron. 33 minutes in. Oh, I beg your pardon. They didn't take the top inhibitor at the very start of the siege, so that's still up and available.
Could
But
look
still
for it
something
now.
to rotate to, yeah.
But I will have to say, I'm very much respecting how Guarp plays with the pain shift. You mentioned it yourself, right? They're looking for the reset on Yoppa. If they're able to catch someone off guard who overextends, you know, it could really be a big fight for Yoppa when he gets those resets as the Frozen Prison has been used, and they will knock back in Golem. He gets deleted Encore onto 3, but the resets have finally come through from Yoppa. But is it enough? As Snille falls on the front line, Lundorf dashes forward as well, but N6 Matter refuses to die. Viggo Mobson stacking up the rage here. Yoppa, the only one full HP and the one who has to carry, but he simply cannot, as there is nothing you can do when Guarp comes for you. Sempre Guarp, baby. As they look for Yoppa, they get the double kill. They might lose Viggo Mobson, but little does it matter. As they win the fight, they get the ace, and they take down our reigning champions yet again.
All right, we're going to start off the day with an upset here. Guarp taking down Nativz. And again, it cannot be understated how important of a win this is for Guarp as they take down the Nexus and move up to 6 and 8. Their final 4 games of the split: Munster, Unique, Lucent, London. In that order. Those are all 4 teams who are directly around them in the standings. They could make a late split playoffs run if they can actually hold form here and maybe some other results go their way. Super important win for Nativz. It does definitely suck now because it gives the opportunity for the light side to come and try and tie things up with them in the standings, which could be kind of awkward moving into the back end. But again, if we're talking about the point system, Nativz only really need to just kind of finish top 2 to pretty much secure that. But of course, you want to finish top 1. That is just always how competition goes when you've been so dominant. But what an amazing performance from Guarp, right? I just feel like from practically minute 1, they really did do a great job of shutting down a lot of what Nativz were going for, and it just felt like some of the plays that Nativz went for didn't really stick, unfortunately. And sometimes that can just be how League of Legends goes. You go for that red buff invade, and then all of a sudden Galen kind of just sneaks into the mid lane on the same side of the map as you and makes a level 3 gank work. Things like that. Just fortune not looking in their favor, but Nativz just didn't really look like their usual selves when they were playing at their ceiling. I beg your pardon. Guarp more than took advantage of that, and they pulled off a fantastic performance.
Yeah, incredibly well played from Guarp. I think when you mentioned that early game, it just kind of feels true, right? Because every time Nativz got something, it was always Guarp who ended up getting more in the end. There was really only that one fight where Rulle ended up getting the massive now, where Nativz definitively came out on top because it didn't really matter what Nativz got. Maybe they got 1 kill or 2 kills, but they just, lost 3 or 4 on the other end. And when you can constantly go down in these trades, not really benefiting from them in the end, it doesn't really matter much in the end. So our reigning champions lose to the wildcard of Guarp Gaming, the mixed team taking a massive win. We will be going into a break, and when we come back, we will have interviews, of course, both winners and losers, before we start talking Game 2. See you then.